Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining as we enter this holiday season. Happy to be back with you for the second annual, we'll call it an executive debrief on 2024 as we look into 2025. This year we picked a very specific title with some excitement coming out of Microsoft Ignite in the middle of November. I had the opportunity to attend. The leadership team has joined all the virtual presentations we can, met with our partner managers, done security and technology deep dives, and we wanted to present to you today our top findings essentially from Microsoft Ignite. So excited for you to join us today. Those that aren't familiar with Synergy Technical, we're a technology consulting firm based out of Richmond, Virginia. I'm Dan Finn, our Vice President of Sales.
I am Ro Mead, the CEO of Synergy Technical.
Clay Westbay, Vice President of Delivery here at Synergy.
And we are a nationally managed Microsoft partner. We are a direct CSP licensing partner. So we have the ability to resell their licensing along with advisory services to make sure you're making the most of your spend and saving where you can. And then we also have a managed services practice for our clients that are looking for some of that day-to-day IT activities to be taken off of their team's plate and leverage a trusted partner for those services. So a little bit about Microsoft Ignite. This is their annual customer conference. This year it was held in Chicago, Illinois. In the middle of November, it started at 60 degrees. It ended at 30 and 2 inches of snow. So thank you very much, Chicago.
You're from Wisconsin, so.
I still don't like snow. So I got on a plane and got out of Dodge. It was really a 3-day conference, though. So while it spanned the whole week, the customer-facing presentation and partner-facing presentations were from Tuesday to Thursday. The estimate was around 15,000 attendees, so quite large. But if you look at previous Ignites pre-COVID, the numbers there were a little more like 30,000. So Ignite is still about half the level. But with the demand we saw in tickets, I expect Microsoft to keep growing this conference back to pre-COVID levels.
Well, and what I would say is that the ability to attend virtually might have disrupted a little bit of that in-person attendance because it didn't used to be that you could watch the sessions live online.
Very good point. Very good point. So, and I'll layer in, I would encourage, it's not our sale, it's for Microsoft, but I would encourage attending the expo. Is probably, the sessions are great. The keynote with Satya was very telling on which announcements and products and technology lines he features. But the ability to walk the expo, what I appreciated was Microsoft didn't stock the booth with salespeople. I know this might be putting me down a little bit, but there were subject matter experts working the booth. So the ability to bring our technical questions to subject matter experts, our customer questions to people that actually have influence over the roadmap and the feature development of those solutions. So what does the tool look like today and what's it going to look like in 6 months? We had some customers do this, and I think a lot of you could get by even just with an expo pass. But we were able to attend a ton of sessions virtually and in person and the expo. And without further ado, I think we can jump into our top findings.
I do have one question, though. Did you stand in line to see Satya?
I stood in line. I got up at 5 in the morning to get there at 6:15. I got in the wrong line first, but then I got in the right line. Otherwise, I would have been first row.
Oh, that would have been so
But
cool.
because I was in the wrong line, I was about 5 rows from the back. Standing room only. Yeah, to be in the room with CEO of Microsoft. I think he saw me waving, so
And he was like, "Hey, Dan Finn."
we're on first name terms now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. With that, we'll really move on. So I'm going to start with my top things. I'll tell you that as the CEO, what I am most concerned about are productivity and inclusivity. It's really, really important to me that our employees are as productive as possible. It's really super important to me that Clay's team is as productive as possible because that translates to more billable hours, which as a consulting firm is really, really important for us. So the first thing for me is Copilot Actions. And it's funny because the placeholder slide that they have given us to use when we talk about Copilot Actions actually addresses a very specific need that we have in our organization. And that is basically automating everyday simple tasks. So things like we have a marketing team here at Synergy Technical, love them. A lot of their content is actually produced by folks outside of marketing because we're a technical consulting company. And so Clay's team might write blog articles or, create webinar content, whatever. What Copilot Actions really allows you to do is to automate those things. So, like in the case of we need to produce a monthly newsletter, Copilot can automate reaching out to Clay's team saying, hey, have you submitted your blog posting? Remind them when they do that, and then aggregate all of that information and come up with a first draft. So it's it has the potential to be incredibly useful. I know that in my life, I deal with a lot of things that are fairly repetitive, and the ability to automate those things could really change how productive we can be developing a customer brief, even gathering project notes or preparing a sales proposal. I could see
Yeah.
it being incredibly
think-
useful.
I think everybody's familiar with how Copilot can do the summaries. It's really cool to kind of see it take it to that next level
Right.
to really take action on something.
Right, right. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we have had with Copilot to date is that the taking action piece has been missing.
Yeah.
And being able to take action.
Actions, and then if you're not familiar with Copilot pages, the ability to cross collaborate with your employees through a Copilot initial prompt. So prompts, actions, pages, and then agents was a big one coming out of Ignite. So extensibility of Copilot
Right.
from summarize my inbox to actually incorporating more data, more automation, assigning it to a specific workflow or process. I think that's where we and customers are starting to see the ROI come out of AI.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to say, summarize my inbox and create these tasks as a result of, and assign them to XYZ person.
Yep.
That
At
for
the end
me-
of the day, summarize the call to actions from all the meetings I attended or followed. If you don't know that Outlook feature, give us a call. Assign the call to actions and then have the assigned call to action person approve that it was their call to action.
Right.
Seeing a few more to-dos in my future.
Yes.
Please. Expect that by Friday.
That's right. Name pronunciation. So this, for me, is huge. When your name is Clay or Dan, it's probably not such a big thing. My full name is Rohana. People call me Ro. I will tell you that I started going by Ro when I started my professional career and found that if people couldn't pronounce my name, they would leave me out of the conversation entirely. So we joke, and it really did happen very early in my career. I was often the only woman in the room, and I got referred to as she with a capital S, because people just couldn't say my name. And so I think that this is really important because we want to be inclusive, and we have people whose names we maybe read and we don't understand how to pronounce. But more than that, it really it makes it so that you can collaborate better. Having someone not want to say your name means that they're likely not going to include you in conversations. So it's definitely, while it seems a very, very minor thing, it's huge. And I know we have people on our staff that will greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Probably not Dan or Clay, but you would appreciate being able to.
I still say it's Finn with two N's and I get Dan with two N's. So it's not pronunciation, but there's a lot of respect in spelling and saying someone's name correctly.
Yes.
And it's really crucial to get that right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the age of hybrid and remote work, it's
Absolutely
like a good
true.
future.
Yeah, absolutely true. I keep a running log of the best misspellings of my name just because some of them are super fun. So
I don't even want to attempt a mispronunciation for fear I get it extra wrong.
yeah. And I do your performance reviews. So
Yeah.
there is that.
End of year, still looking
yes.
to be good on that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but while this seems very minor, it's actually it is really a big deal. Intelligent recaps for calls from chat and meet now. So intelligent recaps available in Teams changed everything for us. It used to be that I would have my chief of staff sit in meetings and take notes and come up with action items and all of that. I don't do that so much anymore because it's not necessary. And we have found that the Teams meeting recaps are actually really very good.
Absolutely.
The challenge has been that you have to schedule a meeting in order to get those. And many of our conversations, and we're almost entirely a remote workforce. There might be 7 people in this office at any given time. Almost all of our calls come from either a chat session or, just I'll ping Clay and say, hey, can you hop on the phone and talk about this thing? Intelligent Meeting Recap has not been available for that. And so what we have had to do to work around that, because we find those notes so incredibly helpful, is say, okay, let me schedule a meeting. Everybody join the meeting and we'll get the recap. And it's just one more thing to deal with. So the ability to get that intelligent recap immediately is huge and not go through all those extra steps. So again, I think this is one of those that's just going to improve our productivity substantially. I think for your team especially.
Yeah, I mean, teams, the meeting recaps is like one of those things that it's like you didn't have it, but now you can't live without it.
Yeah. And I would say if you're a project manager and you don't have that, call us. We'll get you a license because
Yeah.
it will change your life.
I think even Microsoft says this is use case number one, dating back to their early access participants in the summer of 23 to today. The highest ROI, the best end user satisfaction has come from meeting recaps, assigning call to actions, generating meeting minutes. It's simple, it's intuitive, it saves everyone time. You don't have to watch a 60-minute recording to understand what happened. So if you're not using this today, obviously give us a call, or if you have the licensing already today, leverage that first because it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we are now on to the Dan show.
I think it's my turn. And I'm going to start with a real banger of a subject. So licensing changes, everyone's favorite subject, but these are pretty important ones. They're actually the head of our license advisory services had been predicting this announcement for a couple of years. So if you're a current licensing customer, you've heard this said already, but it's coming to fruition. So Microsoft is expiring and not allowing renewal of a lot of their enterprise agreements. So what does a lot mean? It's typically going to be centered on what they call level A, which is theoretically 2,400 employees and below. It won't apply to everyone. You may be able to ask for a 1-year extension. If you have a renewal in January, a couple weeks from now, they'll probably let you go through because this announcement was so recent. But what they're looking to do is take a majority of those enterprise agreements moving forward, starting January of 25, and move them into one of two agreements. Those two are called now a MCAE, or a Microsoft Cloud Agreement Enterprise, or an MCA CSP, Cloud Solution Provider, which is what Synergy Technical is. The highest level difference between the two is your MCAE is going to be a digitally transacted agreement direct with Microsoft. So if you're looking for guidance, if you're looking for the discounting and the, hey, Ro, I'm building a Power App, how do I license that? You're direct through the website, you're going to go to the website and add your licensing to cart and procure it. If you're looking for that guidance, if you're looking for optimizing spend, if you're looking for discounting and support services on top of it, the MCA CSP used to be the NCE CSP or the legacy CSP. If you remember CSP, we'll be able to get you to the right spot.
Right.
But the MCA CSP will be the path for most end users, 2,400 and under licensed employees moving forward. So that's a huge change. There's a lot of questions around that. And what makes it even more convoluted to understand are the options to procure within those agreements. Annual commitments, where you're committing to a license for a 12-month term and you're paying up front, are still going to be the best purchase price available. Same thing with an enterprise agreement. You said for this year, I need 1,000 licenses. I'll pay right now. They offer annual commitments with monthly billing. So you're not allowed to reduce your licensing, but you can have monthly billing. And Microsoft will apply a 5% premium to that advantage of the monthly billing. And then there's monthly commitment with monthly billing. So that means every month I can go up, I can go down, pretty simple, pretty flexible, but there's a 20% premium in Microsoft's cost, direct or from the partner, that's applied by Microsoft, right? So typically you're going to want that monthly billing, monthly commitment for short-term hires, interns, seasonal workforce, those sorts of commitments. The rest you really want to, from a price point, look towards the annual commitment with the upfront payment.
Yes. So the important point here, I think, and this is the accountant in me, is if you have an EA that's expiring before April well, after April 1st, really, or you even have an annual CSP agreement that's expiring after April 1st, you got some planning to do. And you need to be working with either us or whoever you're procuring your license through to build out a strategy, because some of these things could cost you more money depending on, how you're purchasing. And you want to make sure you're planning for that.
Yep. And another key reason to get all this done before April 1 would be a couple price increases. We have
Yeah.
Power BI listed. Power BI Premium and Pro, along with Teams Phone, are going up 20 to 40% in pricing. Like a Power BI Pro that and love at $10 per user per month will be 14 after April 1. So if you renew on an annual commit, you push all of that into 2026. So if this is news to you, reach out to us today. We'll have our email at the end of this to get in contact, and we can talk through ways to delay or avoid, but still license your users to be productive.
Yeah, I mean, this is really important. And again, it's dry, but it impacts your budgets. And you really want to be on top of this, because the last thing anybody wants is for you to be procuring something some way. You don't realize that there's going to be a change. Nobody's telling you there's going to be a change. And all of a sudden now you've got a 20% price increase, particularly if you're buying direct from Microsoft on month to month. That's probably the one that's going to be the biggest impact for folks. Again, reach out to us. We're happy to help with that.
We like to save you money. So
we do.
Play a little game on how much couch cushion money we can find. Because those direct agreements, we often find clients are over licensed. You don't know what to give a user, so you give them an E3 or an E5, and there was a better SKU or profile available. We can help you through that.
Right.
All right, let's get to a little, not necessarily technical, because it's still me leading this portion, but a few things I saw that aren't licensing related. So maybe more exciting for you, the attendee, all important though. So one would be exposure management. This one really changed. Let me put it this way. In conversations with CISOs that I've been having,
apparently we have exposure
it's an
happening.
emergency enrichment today, if you could hear the sirens. So there's some risk enrichment, and we want to analyze that. So the beauty of, if you're familiar with SecureScore, does a real nice job of a snapshot of your environment. You can export all the recommendations that Microsoft provides or a partner leads you to. They can give you the change in your SecureScore if you were to implement whatever that's the feature or technology might be. The CISO's challenge is, okay, I have a team of security analysts. What do they do tomorrow to have the most impact in my organization? How do we reduce our threat footprint, reduce our vulnerabilities on an ongoing basis? So we got daily stand-ups, weekly stand-ups. How do we get visuals and reports to prioritize our tasks? Exposure management is that solution. So it's been rolled in. If you're an E5 licensed customer, it's in there already. Start leveraging these reports. But think of it in this sense of, where do I task my team today, where if I can, there's literally a report called choke points, where if I can reduce a vulnerability on a single endpoint, I reduce thousands of potential access points to a threat actor. So a really different way of looking at security operations more as risk operations and vulnerability management. And it can ingest all the feeds that you have from your Microsoft data sources and then include your Qualys, your Tenables, those sorts of vulnerability management solutions into this single platform.
Yeah, I really like that Microsoft chose to open that up and create, there's over 3,400 security products out there today. So the fact that they can take all of that in and you can build your risk profile, your roadmap, and figure out what you need to do for your hardening strategy is I think, a really great advancement in their tool set.
Yeah. Let's talk about another tool they rolled out to advance your security posture. So if you're familiar with the word Microsoft Syntex, maybe you were looking into it as they announced that technology. They rolled that into SharePoint Advanced Management. So this is an add-on license. But what I found interesting, and I would think of it this way, as we walked the expo at Microsoft Ignite, is there's a lot of third-party vendors that have a booth there, and they all do great things and add value to your technology stack. But the majority of their headlines were secure your data for Copilot. And I'm looking at 50 different booths saying, well, they're all securing my data for Copilot. Wouldn't it be nice if that was just within my tenant? Like, it gave me a report. It said, here's how you secure your data. Well, we're seeing that roll into the Microsoft stack, right? So they're doing Copilot readiness assessments and analysis and recommendations within your tenant. And now they're rolling out some of these controls and governance capabilities into their tool set. So again, the Microsoft security story continues to expand. So SharePoint Advanced Management is one we get asked about all the time in a Copilot readiness assessment, in a typical security assessment. Okay, so I can understand who has access to my SharePoint sites today, but now that I have this deliverable, this all changes next week when finance comes and asks for a new SharePoint page and 3 people get offboarded and 7 people get onboarded. I have a new environment next week. How do I have this ongoing, persistent view of my environment? So advanced management, both from content sprawl, from access reviews, from activity across my SharePoint and my OneDrive files. Hey, this link continues to get clicked, but it's broken. And it can alert you and say, as an admin, you should look into that. Hey, this site hasn't had any activity in 3 months, 6 months. You should take a look at it and decide if we need to deactivate it, all limiting the exposure of potentially sensitive data as we want to look at AI tooling to put into our environment, right? So it is an add-on. I think it's $3 or $3.50 per user. And it's going to be across all your users that are leveraging SharePoint, right? So what's interesting here is you could start to look at some hypotheses. I know we have some floating internally at Synergy. I'm not going to go on record with any with bold predictions for 2025. But they continue to roll out tooling around Intune, tooling around Security Copilot that we'll talk about, tooling around SharePoint and OneDrive governance that all helps you lean into your AI solution of choice. Some are baked into your licensing today, some are additional. It would be kind of nice if they rolled that into a SKU.
Yeah. I mean, as an admin, I like to have everything kind of under one umbrella. That way, I don't have another license to manage, another product to manage, to roll into my environment. It's right there, sitting on top of all the content that I need to analyze. So simplicity, I think we can all agree that's a good thing.
And if you want more info on this, on our YouTube channel, Stephen Rose and Jonathan Mead from our team recently did a 45-minute, hour-long presentation on this tool and its capabilities. So take a look at that or give us a call and we'll talk directly with you about it.
All right.
All right. If we go to, I believe it's my last one I want to call out. My team is already sick of hearing from me about this, but that first bullet point, democratize your data. I don't actually know if I made this up or I stole it from someone. It sounds like something I stole from someone.
I think that's a
but
Microsoft
I'm
term.
gonna take credit moving forward though.
Do it.
Fabric had a bit of buzz. It was mentioned by Satya in the keynote. Copilot and its agents, Fabric, and then a device that Clay's going to talk about were really the 3 big takeaways from the keynote. And then in the breakout sessions, in the expo sessions, Fabric had standing room only attendance from customers and partners alike. And even one of our customers was on a panel talking about their Fabric rollout. And rave reviews sounds very salesy, but it summarizes their presentation on their rollout pretty nicely. To the point that they were asked by Microsoft if you could do one thing differently. Them and their counterparts next to them from a different organization both said they would go wider with the initial rollout, that the business feedback it's been so impactful they want to ingest more data into Fabric. So that
I think we get more inbound on Fabric than anything else right now.
yeah.
I mean, when I see things
absolutely.
come through.
So what is it? Think about it this way. If you have enterprise reporting as a function of your IT team, or if that sits maybe in operations, when you request a new report, what's the timeline for delivery? Typically, we're hearing,
Oh, it could be anything from 6 weeks to next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
does that help?
no.
When you need to edit to an existing report,
Yeah.
That's going to be a few weeks, 8 weeks. So democratizing your data, putting the right data in the right people's hands at the right time is huge. But it's a challenge, and they're typically very large projects with a data lake, a data warehouse, data scientist involved. Well, Fabric simplifies that. So you can choose between a lake house and a warehouse. One's for structured data, one's for structured and unstructured data. You don't have to migrate data into Fabric. You can shortcut and mirror into Fabric. But then that Fabric layer and the One Lake technology from Microsoft enables the analytics, enables the AI engines to run against that data and And then you stack Power BI on top at the user level. So now me as a salesperson, thanks to Microsoft Purview, can be given a Power BI license, create my own reports with my own AI engine within it, and only have access to the data that Ro wants me to have access to. So Purview allows us to control the user's access to the different data sources, and it carries through to the reports I generate. So if I create a report with confidential information, my report is auto-labeled as confidential, and I can only send it to stakeholders that should be able to view that data. So Fabric, I think, can have a huge impact to a lot of client environments, small and large. And it's only been GA for 14 months now, 13 and a half. So some people haven't even heard of One Lake, Fabric, all these technologies. Others are starting to open their eyes to it and say, I need to do a POC right away.
Right. I mean, I think I sign statements of work on Fabric constantly at this point. Yeah, it's probably the most requested thing that comes through.
And what's great is you can start small with a POC, you can do an enterprise rollout, but once you train your users, then the knowledge transfer to your team to run with this solution, it'll grow pretty quick from what customers are saying after the initial rollout.
Think we're going to need some security with all of that data out there.
That was a key session I said.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been almost a year since Microsoft released Security Copilot to limited number of customers, right? That Security Copilot has been enhanced, and these announcements were made at Ignite. And so we have Copilot and Purview, specifically kind of what you alluded to, Dan, data security, posture management. So now we have the ability to go do that Copilot readiness assessment with these Purview tools. And we can use natural language to do those discoveries. In this case, Microsoft's even going to create prompts for us to key off of what we might need to look for based on the data that it's ingesting and the data points that it sees. So these tools can go pretty deep. So I think the goal is to put some natural language out there and help customers decipher their needs and be able to see where they may be oversharing or undersharing in some cases.
Yeah.
Keeping in that same vein, intra, digging into the specific identity and risk data points within intra, bringing this together to say, okay, I've got a user that has some these risk alerts. What do I do next in order to address those? Here's a prompt based on what it's seeing that's going to take you to some actions that you need to take care of. So maybe not so apparent previously when logging into these tools, but Copilot's there to help. Same thing with Intune, going in and creating some of these device policies, not so intuitive, but with natural language, I can type in exactly what my requirements are, and I can get to the screens and the prompts that in the areas that I need to do to configure to secure my environment. Copilot Logic apps connectors. If you've dealt with Microsoft Sentinel, or if you've done a POC with us, you know how deep that can go. You could spend weeks on that product alone. So if you're not a KQL expert, you can be now with Security Copilot.
Yeah, exactly. We've had customers leaning into this and enabling your security analysts to do more, to threat hunt quicker, to write their incident response reports quicker, right? That document generation, documenting an incident within your environment can take hours. So the ability I've seen Copilot prompts, these are the embedded tools within the Microsoft security stack, but there's also a standalone Copilot for security, much like Copilot Business Chat. If you're familiar with that on the productivity side, there's a standalone security Copilot that can oversee me as maybe a CISO. I have permission across Defender, Intune, Entra, Sentinel. And standalone can read all that. It can generate then the incident report, and I can even prompt it to say, provide a technical analysis that's going to go to the CISO, and then provide an analysis for the board, maybe a little less technical, but more focused towards the business impact of that incident. What used to take 3 hours, 4 hours a day, editing back and forth across a team longer than a day, can first draft be created in literally seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we continue to see more here. It was clear from the Ignite sessions that Microsoft has put a lot of focus in this area.
Yeah.
And they want people to be able to get what they need using natural language out of these complex security products.
I was listening to a podcast this morning on Microsoft wants people to lean into AI and security. So the podcast was a top 10 trends of 2024 from a Microsoft person. And they were talking about if AI will enable you to do what you want. So if you want to be a bad actor, you could be more bad thanks to AI. If you want to be lazy, you can be a little more lazy thanks to AI. Copilot Actions, it's what it's there for. But if you want to be more secure, you want to be a better threat hunter, security analyst at your organization, AI will also enable that. And we're going to see people using AI for all three of those scenarios. So we need to be leaning into it for the security angle.
Yeah, it's a great point. The next announcement felt like it's part of the keynote, so I think Microsoft is leaning into this
I
one.
think so.
So we're back to the thin client, but this time it's a specific thin client that's built around security, and it's built to connect to Windows 365 Cloud PC specifically. So I think this past year we saw a lot of adoption around Windows 365 and ABD. More POCs, more rollouts than we could imagine. So this device, Microsoft is saying it's going to offer super high quality video, passwordless authentication. It's going to be able to be managed in Intune where you're familiar already. And so this is a cost-effective way to give your users access to their Windows 365 PC, whether they're remote, in the office, hybrid. And this is
I'm not very smart, so I think cloud PC, and then why are we putting hardware in place? So, we had a conversation. I was like, tell me why I'm buying hardware for my cloud PC.
But you have to connect to the cloud PC from something, right? And I think that's the biggest pushback that we've gotten on Windows 365 is if I have to buy a PC to connect to Windows 365, why do I need Windows 365? And I think that this really addresses that. For us, again, we have employees really all over the world, and the ability to now deploy this small, basically thin client, as opposed to, having them get a machine is huge. I think even just from a security standpoint, this office, people come in and drop in all the time. It would be much better to have these little devices, certainly.
Kiosk, rotating cubicle, work from home scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think, security was definitely a focus, and we saw the announcement of Windows resiliency. So that is coming here. I believe it is the summer of 2025. And so with that, you'll be able to have things like the quick recovery tool where I can recover a PC that maybe is not able to boot or on a blue screen, but I can do that remotely. So if we have an outage, like maybe we happen to see this past year with a certain security vendor, we won't name.
CNN did.
We can.
They sure did, but they named the wrong one first.
So IT teams getting deployed on site, maybe we don't see that, and we're able to use the quick recovery tool. In the same vein, they also announced the hot patching feature. So now we will be able to push out critical updates without the PC having to reboot or interrupt users in their workflow. So the old reboot, wait, reboot, push more patches, maybe going away here, and that I believe is already in preview.
Yeah, that's all super exciting, and capabilities I didn't know were in Windows 10 because they weren't turned on by default are now, when you pull these mega tech organizations in front of Congress and say they need to be more secure, well, they start to be turned on by default. So moving to Windows 11, these are, secure by default as part of their Secure Future initiative.
Absolutely.
It's good for everyone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
think that's it.
That summarizes it.
So there were a lot of announcements at Ignite. Let me clarify that. If you haven't seen it, we didn't put a link here, but the Ignite Book of News, I was going to say the G word, but being that, all the announcements are there, and you can hyperlinks to all of the blogs, everything. So that's very important to know. But Dan?
Yeah, we
Do you?
tried to limit the amount of times we said AI, but I think we still hit about 44 by my rough count.
Okay. Were you counting?
No, I'm not that sharp enough to pull that off.
I was gonna be
Obviously, AI is a big buzzworthy topic. So if your organization's trying to wrap their heads around what the right AI is for the right process, reach out to us around that topic as well. But we tried to make this, highlighting some announcements that went beyond that, from productivity tools, security tooling, managing identities, managing the data within your infrastructure. It's things everyone's challenged with, and we're lucky enough to see across all of our client environments and get some best practices from Microsoft. So if you don't have a trusted partner you're leaning into for those conversations today, reach out to us. We're always available to anyone interested in a conversation. Our name's on every SOW and proposal we send out, including Rose's phone number. But the quickest way to get a hold of me, we put your phone number on there.
I like that.
Might go to your chief of staff. No, it goes to Rose. But this is the quickest way. We got a team managing info@synergy-technical.com. Send any direct questions through there. We'll get you routed to the right folks internally to get you on your way. And appreciate everyone joining over the lunch hour here. If we don't get an opportunity to chat prior, happy holidays, and hope you're ready to kick off a real strong 2025.
We are.
And we are too. So look forward to chatting with you then as well.
All righty. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.